Hi there, it's Shell and Clint.
Hi.
And Clint had an idea to try to boil up some of these roses that we had. Clint brings me roses about once every other week or, once a week sometimes once a month. But he's been doing that for 21 years. And anyways, these were about ready for the garbage. They were just about kind of to their brink of being, trash. And Clint says, I wonder what would happen if we boiled them down. So what we're doing is he went ahead, he chopped them up, and he's going to add some water. So he's putting them in a pan, and this pan is one that we kind of have just specifically for things that not necessarily food, just anything else. So he went ahead and added about 16 cups of water to about a dozen roses. And then he is going to, he's showing you the 8-cup there, but he is going to put them on the stove, and we're just going to bring those up to a boil. So kind of a high heat until they start boiling. And then we are just going to let them boil. And we actually turned it down and let it simmer for about an hour. And after a while, all the petals kind of became really white. So it was like all the color had been extracted from the petals. So what I did is I just turned it off. I went and took a nap while it was cooling. And then we are straining it. But I did go ahead and strain it through a fine mesh strainer, as well as like a milk strainer, and it's kind of finer than like a coffee filter. And we used to get those. We used to get those when we used to milk. So you could use cheesecloth or anything like that if you felt like it was necessary. Like I said, I don't think it was necessary with the rose petals. But if you do like the avocado or something like that that has a bunch of grime and small particles, then it's definitely necessary, I feel. So again, we're just going to strain all of the rose petals out, and then we're going to fill up. And we ended up filling 2 quart jars, plus I used whatever was left to, do some papers. Okay, so that's about done. What I do is I just pulled a 9x13 cake pan. I know that, roses are not poisonous or anything like that. So I went ahead and put the rest of the juice in my cake pan. And I would say pretty close to about another quart. Now, when I am doing this and doing the papers, right there I was just showing you after an hour, that's how red it was, which is pretty much what the end result was. So, but while I'm doing the papers, so I figured I used about a quart of the liquid with my papers, and I'm just going to show you how I go about this. Now, my oven is preset for 400 degrees, and I know that's really high, but it works just fine. So all I do is I just dip a single paper into my juice. And when I'm doing this, at first I was thinking, oh no, there's no color, because look at it. I mean, there's really no color. It just looks white. And I'm thinking, we did all this work for nothing. But I was pleasantly surprised when I took it out of the oven. So I am just doing, what I do is I put them, I use large enough cookie trays that I can put 2 papers on each tray. And excuse my gray hair and my funky glasses. Those are my house glasses, because nobody's going to see me, I guess, except for you guys. And I didn't realize my hair was that gray, but, it is what it is. But anyways, I bake them at 400 degrees for 3 minutes. And I just set my timer, and for the most part, they're dry in about 3 minutes. I did kind of spread everything up, or speed everything up, but look at this beautiful purple paper. I was so pleasantly surprised. And these were red roses, but the purple paper just made this so worth it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some doilies. This piece of paper I kind of soaked a little bit longer. I just wanted to see if that would make the color more intense. And then I'm adding, like I said, a few doilies, things like that. So I did speed this up so you're not waiting 3 minutes in between each paper. This was my next batch. And because the cookie trays are so hot, when you put the paper on the cookie tray, it kind of bubbles up and it gives you that really cool effect. So we were really happy with this. And like I said, I still have 2 quarts of rose petal juice or whatever it's called in the refrigerator to do more of these. So, you know, I'm just kind of experimenting here and there, and I'll just show you guys kind of what I'm doing. I did try a couple of things with the doilies. I tried it with them being wet and just seeing what I, you know, can kind of get what my experiment was. But I loved how these turned out. Some of them were so interesting, and I really liked it. Clint was pleasantly surprised as well, because we were both like, I don't know if that's going to work, but it really did work. Okay, and then this is where I start experimenting with the doilies. I'm just going to go ahead, wet my paper, and put that on there. And then I have a couple of doilies that I used a die to cut out. And so I'm just going to try that and just see what it looks like. So I just really wet my doily. I popped it on the paper, and we'll see what it looks like when it's dry. Okay, and then here's a couple more papers that came out, and I love the little bubbles. And mainly what I do is I just kind of do plain paper, but you'll see that I'm doing some experimenting in here. Not everything I did worked, but I was, you know, like I said, I was pretty happy with the end results. And here is the paper with the doily. And, you know, I had a little bit of an image, though it wasn't like a perfect image of the doily. So what I did on some of the other ones is I went ahead and wet it, and then I used like a towel, and I pressed that doily all the way down. And when you press it, you know, totally down on your paper, it gives you a better image. So I did find that out, and that worked really nice. And here I am just sharing some more of the paper that's done. I tend to use the ones that don't have any fancy looks to it more often than anything else. But I also pulled some ledger paper, and I thought that'd be kind of fun to dye as well. And I was able to, you know, fit more on the pan. One thing I have discovered is like when you layer and stuff like that, you don't get the really bright purple all over. It's like anything that's layered. I don't know if the heat doesn't get to it as well, but you don't get the color as well. And, you know, I did set aside a couple of papers to just let them air dry, and they were not turning at all. So Clint popped them in the oven. They were almost dry. I mean, like on the verge of being dry, and he popped them in the oven, and then we got color. So we're thinking that the heat from the oven is what is giving these color. So, you know, we did a few experiments, things like that, and we got a slight color, but not a huge bit of color. So this is just me doing the invoices, or the, what is that stuff called? ledger paper, and I just kind of flipped it and stuff like that to kind of get the heat all in, underneath the ledgers and stuff like that. So, there's some color on them. It's not a huge amount of color, but that was one thing we discovered is you don't get a lot of color, especially if it's not, the heat can't like surround it. It was a fun experiment. But we definitely feel like these are heat activated. So if there's no heat, it seems like we're not getting the color. Clint was cutting up like a shirt that had some doilies in it. And so I'm going to experiment with those and see how that works. So I just laid that down, laid the doilies that had been soaked in the rose water and on top, and then I laid another piece of paper just to see what kind of fun things I can get. And I'll show you that here in just a minute. Okay, and here's one with the paper doily on it. And, I kind of pressed this one down, and I feel like I got a better image by doing that. So I really liked how that looked. And I'm just using this doily over and over again. I took some ledger, and I went ahead and dipped those. And then here is the paper that has the fabric doilies on it. The one piece of paper that I did singular was all dry, but the ones with the fabric doilies was still wet. So again, I'm just experimenting with some of the ledger, some of the doily, and, just some of the papers. I just thought they were really pretty. And then I am just going to just use some more plain paper. And I really think that was my favorite, just kind of because of all the heat from the bubbles and things like that, the fun images. But here I am pressing that doily down, and I really felt like that made a huge difference on the details and stuff of the doily. So again, here is that pan that has the fabric doilies and stuff, and they really did not turn out at all as far as being able to determine what was on there, in the first place. So I removed the doilies. I'm popping them back in the oven to make sure they're totally dry, and then I'll pull those out, and you can see how it turned out here in just a second. Okay, and then here they are. I thought they were interesting. They had a lot of interest in them, more so than any of the other papers we did. And I thought that was fun. So here we are kind of experimenting with some other pans. We have like a broiler pan that Clint pulled out. And so we're playing with that just to kind of see what other kind of images and stuff we can get on these dyed papers. So I'm going to do that. I just put the pan on top of my cookie sheet, and I'm just going to slide that in the oven. It did take quite a bit longer to dry in the oven than the 3 minutes, and I think it's because it was kind of raised up, and so the heat kind of had to circulate, so it did take a little bit longer for it to dry, but it worked out just fine. And it was kind of fun to see the different images and stuff that you get, just using different items throughout your house. So that was a lot of fun. And, I did a few sheets like that. You had to be really careful, though, because you didn't want that pan like popping off and burning you or anything like that. So then I got to thinking about other things that we could use. And I've been thinking about using some chicken wire for the longest time. And we happen to have a roll of chicken wire. So after convincing Clint that I'm not wasting his chicken wire, he cut me a piece off. And yeah, so here I am. I'm just kind of folding it. And, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to work really great. And so I'm just folding it into the perfect shape to fit my pan. And then I am just going to just dunk a couple sheets of paper and put on top of my chicken wire. So now I have discovered that this rose water stuff is staining my counter. So, like, instead of thinking about it before I got started, I pulled some parchment paper and just covered my counter. So it kind of stained a little bit, but I think with some bleach and stuff, it'll wipe up just fine. And so I just thought I would leave that in so that you guys can remember to kind of protect your surface as you're doing this. So here's some more papers from the grill pan, from the broiler pan, and I really like those. I think those were a lot of fun. I did a few more of those and put those in the oven, and that was a lot of fun. And I was checking on the chicken wire pan, and again, the same thing is going on with the chicken wire. The paper's not drying that well, so it did take quite a bit longer. And this is the result. I was really upset. It was just kind of like puddles of the rose water. It wasn't like any cool design or anything like that. So I'm going to try it again. I'm going to press my paper down. And I'm going to pop it back in and just see if anything, comes from it. But yeah, in reality, it really didn't work so well. But then I'm going to try something else. So again, here's some more paper from the broiler pan. And that one was always, was a success. I really liked the broiler pan. But I was kind of getting tired at this point. I think it's been like 2.5 hours. And so I just decided, okay, I still have some of the rose water, and I just want to get done. It's a lot of work to dye your papers, and even, 400 degrees for 3 minutes. I mean, that's all you're doing for 2 hours is constantly changing your papers over and stuff like that. So it was a lot of time. It does take a lot of time. Okay, and then these papers are kind of like a brown paper, which is kind of how I expected the rose water to turn out. But I think what I did is I left them in the oven too long, and that's where the brown came from. So you definitely want to keep an eye on your papers so that you get the bright, brilliant color and not the kind of dingy brown color. And now I am trying one more thing with the chicken wire. So I'm wetting my papers, putting them on the pan, and then I'm going to put the chicken wire on top of my papers. And maybe that will kind of give me the image that I'm looking for. And then what I did is I put the other pan on top of that and put more papers on that. And I'm going to pop that in the oven, and we'll see how it turns out. So now I am just labeling these jars and putting a date on them. That way, whenever I'm ready to do some more paper, have a couple of hours or a day to just mess with dyeing, then I can pull those out and just have fun with it. So here's the end result. I don't know. How did it turn out? Not any different, other than the fact that it had tons of holes. So I would say that the chicken wire was truly a fail. Okay, so this is what I got done today. I'm going to show you guys how much we got done. Probably with about 4 cups of the rose petal juice, so rose petal water. So here are some kind of lacy pieces. Sorry if my gray hair gets in the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, There might be another one over here. So 8 of those, the lacy pieces, and then this doily that I kept using over and over again. And then these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the ones that I put that chicken wire on that totally did not work. And it's got holes all in it. So I may have to use that for like journaling cards or something. 7, 8. I think I left these in the oven too long. 10, I think. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, here's another one of those, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 42, 44 right here, and I have about probably about 10 or so more in the thing, so over 50 with about 4 or 6 cups of liquid. So I just kind of wanted to show you that, and aren't these absolutely beautiful? I was so excited, except for these, but that doesn't bother me too much because I think what I did is I left them in too long, and so it kind of made it into a browner color. But you know, for junk journals, that's not going to matter. And this does look like a lot, but what I'll do is I'll stick it in a manila, one of those manila folders, and they'll squish down and kind of straighten out. So just wanted to share that with you guys, how it all came together and how much I could get done. Probably 2.5 hours. So it does take some time. And I bake mine at 400 degrees for about 3 minutes until they're dry. So thanks for watching.